Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode. I need to find a better way to intro this. Big Mecha! But not huge. Today we've got a brand new special, part 2 of our Transformers series. We're doing Revenge of the Fallen. Today I have with me standard co-host Wilhelm. Say hello, Wilhelm.
Greetings from the default era.
Yes, default Will. And then today we also have David, also known as Video Noise TV, but we're going to call him David today. Hello, David.
What's up? Good to be back.
Yo, yo, yo. I'm glad you guys are here. Oh, man. This movie, can we even call it a movie? Because I feel like it's 2.5 hours of bullshit.
Wow. Hold on a minute. Could you go back in time real quick and talk to Sean from a month ago? The second one's like one of my favorites. Isn't that something I heard? I swear I heard that.
I never said that. I said number 3 is my favorite.
Is that because you hate Chicago?
I've never been, but no, it's because it's the darkest one in the entire series. No, this movie that we watched was Revenge of the Fallen, and this movie is not that great. It has some great moments. It has some really cool looking moments, but then it also has a lot of problems, kind of just like the first movie.
That kind of sounds like my description
Dave,
for number one.
Yeah. But let's go with David first. David, what were your thoughts on this movie? Like your basic thoughts.
The action is still good, but overall I think they got like really cocky with the success of the first one, and so they got even dumber.
Yeah.
Oh man, wait till he gets to 4, Sean. And 3.
Oh my god.
He thinks this is dumb. I haven't even started scraping the barrel yet.
Yeah, I barely remember the like Mark Wahlberg ones, but yeah, but this you could see they're starting to get like too cocky.
Yeah, you could definitely tell they were a little full of themselves, and you would think with after some of the stuff that they did in the first movie that they would try to pull back a little bit. No. Will, what are your thoughts?
I think it's better than the first one in that they focus on the giant aliens that they now have rather than just they show up at a certain point. They're there the whole time. And by being there the whole time, it still doesn't properly center itself because it does the Legendary Pictures, well, at least the 2014 Godzilla thing, where the name of the thing is Transformers, and yet the focus is some dumb teenager. Why? You don't need audience insert. The entire original premise of the franchise was this is about the alien robots. There are humans, but it's about the alien robots. And for some reason, they just decided, you know what? We're going to buck tradition, and we're going to focus hard on a teenager because everyone is secretly a 17-year-old horny boy who's not that smart. Everyone is definitely that.
Oh,
That's our
man.
demographic. And then we're going to
I'm pretty
write
sure that's what Michael
several
Bay
films.
is, right?
What's that?
I'm pretty sure that's what Michael Bay is, right? Some
No,
teenager.
Michael Bay is an intelligent filmmaker who is really, really good at action movies because he's made a ton of those and they make a lot of money. His version of Transformers feels like a dumb popcorn flick version of Transformers, which is all it's supposed to be, and that's fine. It's just, it's really easy to point at it and go, it really had nothing to say. Because it didn't, and that was the point. Michael Bay was never trying to make a faithful recreation. He was never trying to make a really interesting addition, like writing wise, to the world of Transformers. He just wanted a really kick ass action movie with the action figures he played with as a kid. He was a big fan of Gen 1, which is why the entirety of his movies are based off of Gen 1, where, like, okay, if you take Gen 1 blank, if you take this idea and then you run it through a bunch of filters, that's how you get to his. He basically treated Gen 1 like a concept art and concept ideas, and then he went from there. So you see the nods to them, but yeah, he was never trying to make a Transformers series. He was trying to make a fun action movie that happens to have Transformers in it. Which
So
is where a lot of the criticisms come from, because Michael Bay is very
that
good at action movies.
that comes to my actual critique of the movie is that it basically feels like a giant cartoon that has a lot of Bay-ness to it, just because there's a lot of Michael Bay stuff that you would
Mhm.
expect
Stuff
from all of his
explodes for
movies in
no
these.
reason in this. There's slow-mo for no reason. Actually, this one didn't have as much slow-mo. First one did. But yeah, it's very
Yeah,
Michael Bay. It's very in his wheelhouse. At one point, they're in the desert, and there's an action scene, and stuff was just exploding, and I'm like, why is everything exploding? It's sand. Was the sand replaced with massive piles of gunpowder and nitroglycerin? What? Why is it exploding? Like, it's a
well,
goofy thing when a car like rolls and then detonates, but we're talking it's just sand. It is just sand.
yeah, and that's where the whole idea of it being also a cartoon. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that's really, really silly
Hmm?
or just really, really dumb.
Hmm.
But you also got that with the first movie. The first movie, you kind of got that tone with it just because that's the way that it was almost technically like a coming of age type movie mixed with Transformers action a
Yes.
little bit.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit weirdness. Now it's just like we're taking that up a notch to college, and it felt kind of tonally indifferent throughout. And then there was still a lot of stuff involving just random horniness that's just like, at one point I get it because it's in the point of view of Sam, but then you got John Turturro again, who's just like, criminals are hot. Same thing, except now he goes like, criminals are mature. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
He just wanted to let you know he also likes MILFs. He wants you to know when you look at his search history. Why?
God. You were gonna say, David?
Oh yeah, that he turns to her and he's like, "Look at you, so mature." Like it's
Yep.
for no reason. Yeah, it's goofy. They do the
Oh,
thing that I hate, and I don't know if this is just a bias being Hispanic, but they do the whole like, just bugging out Hispanic character that's just screaming, and
Leo?
he's just a
oh, I forgot he was
yeah,
Hispanic.
it's just a soundboard for saying like "Ay Dios mío," or just constantly, yeah.
The worst part about his character, because that was actually one of my biggest things about this movie, is that he seems pretty much 98% pointless, just like how those other characters were in that other movie. The only thing that he has for this particular thing is getting to John Turturro's character. He's literally the guiding point just to bring him along, and then after that, all he does is slapstick and scream. It's just like, come on, they need to make their characters better than that.
He does that whole
So-
like alpha. I like to think of it's like Alpha Hispanic, where it's like Alpha from Power Rangers, where it's just constantly like ay ay ay
Ay, 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 ay.
like that's like all they know how to write.
It's a really good
Yeah,
description.
it's like all they know how to write Hispanic characters in
Oh.
action movies until like Blue Beetle and stuff. But yeah, that's how we're
Blue Beetle.
written in the movie, to just like freaking out and clutching to like
You know-
rosary beads and stuff, and just
To be fair, Sam is not that far from that for 90% of the movie.
yeah, he's the Jew.
But
yeah,
we established his character
the,
as that.
like you said, he's the Jewish version. He's Woody Allen. Like he's just the
Oh
whole-
yeah, you're right. He is basically Woody
Yeah.
Allen. Yeah,
We were
no.
talking about that last time. And it just
Yeah.
increases even more. But after going through all this with Megan Fox, and it's like the girl of his dreams, he's too cool to say "I love you" the whole movie. That
was weird. Like, he's supposed to be like at this point 18, finished high school, some time passed, and he's like, that would be too vulnerable. And I'm like, dude, you've had how many near-death experiences with her, and both of you are not on the same page yet? Like, I know people who have like, illnesses that take something from them, like their freedom or the ability to do something, and then they have that like, okay, this completely alters the way I view like all of reality. This man almost died like 50 times, and apparently his view of the world has just completely not changed at all.
Oh yeah, and he also doesn't view himself as anything special, because he's like going to college, and he's like, I want nothing to do with all that, but he's like chosen for that. I don't know. I feel like if I knew that I was like the key or something, I wouldn't be like, no, I'm just trying to study advertising, or something.
Technically, he doesn't know that. That is, his brain gets screwed with by a piece of the Allspark against his will, and he has insight into why everyone said his grandfather went insane, because he did, and he basically goes insane. So at the very least, him getting weirder in this movie makes sense because he's basically losing his mind because he can't process what's in it because they dumped alien Wikipedia into his brain and he can't process it. So he's just the entire movie his brain trying to process it, and then he's also trying to like still have a consciousness, not go catatonic, not just fall over and start seizing. So it's like that at least makes sense, but he is also still Sam, so he does a lot of weird dumb crap. Like he can't say I love you. He can't say no and like assert himself physically, and I guess fine, but like that's it's weird because I feel like the character at this point, his life experiences would have taught him like how to say no to someone basically sexually assaulting him, and be like, I get in his room he couldn't because giant robot, and it said no to him, so it's forcing him and then trying to kill him, but like when she's still pretending to be human, he could just tell her
Leave me
no.
alone. Yeah, it's
Like leave me alone is a thing you can say. You can be like, dude, get out of my face, or just walk
Yeah,
away.
but then we wouldn't get that Bumblebee scene of Bumblebee literally
Okay,
trying to escape her out of the vehicle.
that scene is really funny. Violence against women is not funny, but violence against alien robots is hilarious.
yeah. Technically, it's a robot. That's also it's funny because it's the way she's designed her human form is like the stereotypical Michael Bay female character. Like in every movie,
Oh God, yeah.
the hacker, Megan Fox, this girl, Mark Wahlberg's daughter. I think the different the one that looks the most different is like in Bumblebee. They finally like change up what it looks like.
Well, in Bumblebee,
There's
isn't that the main character, the girl?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but that's because it's also not done by Bay.
Well, no, he's just producer, I
Yeah.
think, on that.
Yeah, and there's actually one girl who was in I think it was number 5. I think she might no, she's the second female character in the movie. Because there's only 2. And in
Well,
that
don't
movie,
have too many.
it's actually I think it's the little girl who played Dora the Explorer
Oh,
in the
you're
movie
right.
in the Dora movie.
you might be right. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she is not in it for very long. Like she's maybe in it for maybe a quarter of the movie. You just see her every now and then.
yeah. He's just always presenting this like very like OC Laguna Beach.
Southern California.
Yeah,
It's
just
everyone has a
Mhm.
tan. The girls always look like they're over tanned. Although, okay, this happened to me. Did either of you guys think, "Wow, everyone is so orange in this movie"?
yeah, it's
Maybe
it's
turn
like
the
sunburned.
turn that
Once
filter
you
down
said
a
that to
little.
me, I'm like, oh
Hey,
my
Mike,
God.
because they're in the desert, they shouldn't look orange. Turn down that filter a little bit. It's
Yeah.
It's a
okay.
very
Traffic was years
saturated
ago.
movie. Yeah, it is. It's like Traffic.
So before we go any further into our thoughts on this movie, let's go ahead and talk about the different facts. So this is part 2 of a 5-part series done by Michael Bay. The
Okay.
starring actors we got are Shia LaBeouf, Megan Fox, Josh Duhamel, Tyrese Gibson, and John Turturro. They all reprise their roles from the last movie. We also do have the addition of Sam's parents,
Well, I mean,
which are Kevin Dunn and Julie White.
they were in the last movie
And
too.
honestly, yeah, and I will say that they were probably the most outstanding characters in this movie.
Wow.
I really enjoy that scene where the mom gets really high off of a brownie super quick.
Yeah, that's
That's
not actually how weed
Yeah,
works.
it is very quick that it happened.
She eats it, and
Yeah.
within 5 minutes, she just is basically drunk. And it's like, that's even
Yeah.
with alcohol, that you would have to like not eat anything and just do straight shots of like hard liquor.
right. Let's see, who else do we have in here? We've got random cameos, like in this one we got Rainn
Yep.
Wilson as Sam's college
No, no.
professor for
As
astronomy.
a very horny college professor of astronomy.
Every single thing was fucking
Double entendre.
straight on
Yeah.
double entendre. Like, good lord. And then we also have this new character, Ramon Rodriguez, who plays Leo, who is by far, because of exactly what David said, one of the most annoying characters in
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah,
You know, I can't wait till we get to the movie where they had it annoying because every one of them has it. They had an annoying character and he dies, and I was genuinely relieved that character died. I was like, oh, thank God.
I know who you're
I
talking
could not
about.
stand having that character in that movie. That character is also dumber than a box of rocks. And
Yeah.
so dumb, he puts other people's lives at risk, and I'm like, you deserve to die to the aliens, idiot.
Well, what's funny about with Leo is that at one point he gets to the point where he's either talking too much or he's screaming too much that they literally
Mm-hmm.
tase him in the neck just to shut
Yep.
him up, and they go, "God, that guy's annoying." Like they literally say that. It's like, all right.
It's just like you said. It's just I don't know.
So I don't know why his character freaks out like that because they don't do a good job of justifying it. Because when they introduce him, yeah, he's clearly trying to be cool and he's just projecting, "Oh, I'm awesome. You can come work for me," and all this other shit because he's a child. He's like 17, 18 and he thinks this is what an adult acts like, which I get.
Mm-hmm.
But given that his character is the first one, along with his two buddies, to openly say, dude, that is definitely not real. Aliens or some other shit are what did this, which is true. We know this because we're the audience. But why would you make him basically have primed himself for, holy shit, I was right, and then have him freak out like a child? And it's like, he already told himself they're real. This is just proving he's right. He should be ecstatic. Like the first time he finds out, and then basically just be like really happy for the rest of the movie because he's like, I was totally right. I got all of it right. That was right. That was right. I got that right.
I mean, let's look at it this way, though. Imagine that you were a fan of the aliens in Independence Day, and then all of a sudden you're attacked by said aliens. Would you be a fan anymore?
Well, not all of the aliens. In the movie Independence Day, every one of them wants to murder every human. In this movie, the big
Yeah.
blue one is really nice and has a beautiful voice. The yellow one is basically just a shit posting YouTube bot. The Then you've got big guy over here who's just a really big guy. Sounds kind of like he's from Australia and he really likes to shoot stuff. Then you've got the dude in the back who's basically Doc and never talks.
Oh yeah, he did.
He does. He says two things at one point. He openly because they show you that you can literally murder and then repossess the parts of one transformer to rebuild another. And then
yeah,
after they
that's right.
show that's a thing, way at the end of the movie, it's so they can justify the Jetfire Optimus combo that happens in some of the versions of that story. So that because he tells another robot to basically shoot the two of them and then charge them so that they will come together using the parts of the now dead Jetfire to supercharge Optimus and make him crazy strong, but only for like 10 minutes, and then it deactivates for absolutely no reason except that
You mean when he sheds the skin?
he sheds all of those pieces, and you're like, so it's like a 10-minute power up where you're super strong, and then you immediately go back to where you were before?
It's all right. It comes back in the next movie, also for a brief moment.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but again, very brief moment.
Yeah.
But speaking of the different aliens in this movie, we've got Optimus Prime, Megatron, the Fallen. Now, it's interesting that we're recording this now because just yesterday, the voice actor for the Fallen, Tony Todd, just passed away.
Yeah.
So, rest in peace, Tony Todd, aka Candyman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We've also got Jetfire, Ironhide, Ratchet, Starscream, Soundwave, and Devastator. And then you've also got a few little smaller ones. The smaller one I want to talk about real quick is Wheelie. Do you know who voices Wheelie?
Is that Steve Buscemi?
No, it's Tom Kenny.
There you go.
Exactly. So every time you hear him go like, "Oh, you crazy bitch," just think of it as Tom Kenny or SpongeBob saying that.
There's also those the twins.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mudflap and Skit.
Oh, you didn't mention them at all.
Yeah.
Is there a reason, sir?
Yeah.
Is there a particular reason you're not mentioning those two? You didn't like them.
They're very badly coded. That's another. It's just.
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
yeah. They're
not-
very
Yeah.
uncomfortably coded.
Michael Bay is
This
just
movie
like-
was made by a
Yeah.
white man.
Yeah. You can't-
Hold on.
you can't
And written by
write-
white men.
Wait a minute. This was written in 1940. I'm sorry, 2004.
Yeah, it's so.
Yeah, so we got Mudflap and Skids. Tom Kenny voices Skids. I believe he is the green one. Mudflap was the red one. They're both twins, but yeah, they're basically Mexican Transformers.
They're they're black and or Hispanic. It's inferred that there's some kind of like
they almost look like gangbangers, or a Hollywood version of gangbangers.
Got the gold tooth.
Oh yeah, one of them has a.
Which I thought that was really
for no
offensive.
reason.
Well, they.
Why does it have
They also look like rats. They literally look like rats.
Yeah.
They have like giant things on the side of their head. They look like ears. Their faces kind of come together. They look like cartoon rodents.
Yeah, it is not.
Now, are those in the?
We'll mention them if we need
Are
to,
those
but I'd rather
machines
not.
in the
further than
cartoon?
that. I don't think
What
so.
machines?
I've never seen them before. Mudflap and Skibs.
Oh, this looks like a job for the internet.
In the meantime, I've got one other Transformer I want to mention. I wouldn't really say it's a flashback. It's more like a moment where Sam ends up going into the Transformer ethereal realm, so to speak, and he ends up conversing with the Primes. There's one Prime that stands out among the rest of them. It's Kevin Michael Richardson. He's the guy who basically, if you've ever watched any Family Guy thing or Cleveland Brown, he's the voice of Cleveland Jr. But you'll recognize him in a whole bunch of other different voice roles. He's just known as one of the best voice actors around. If you remember him in Clerks 2, he actually had a very brief cameo in that.
He comes in with Wanda Sykes, right?
He comes in at the very end when not the quick stop, when the movies is like covered in smoke. He comes in and he sees Randall's shirt, which I'm not going to say what it says. And then he yells at him. He goes like, "Relax, I'm bringing it back." Yeah. So for this movie, the movie had a budget of about 200 to 210 million. It made a shit ton of money, 836.5 million. So guys, I want to ask, where did all that money go to aside the actors? Because
Wait.
The animation does not look.
Hold on, go back. What was the budget of each movie?
For this one, it's 200 to 210.
That's before marketing budget?
Might be including. That's why it says between.
Okay. Well, one, you have to remember these were heavily marketed. Some of these are the marketing budgets, especially on big movies like this, are astronomical. The amount of money they put into marketing like a single film from certain studios can be crazy high. Millions and millions and millions of dollars, which drives up the cost of the film because sometimes they'll spend up to 50%. So they'll spend X on the movie, and then they'll spend up to like 50% of that original budget just in marketing the movie, which is how you get like really weird crossovers for certain companies and all this other stuff. It's part of that's recouping, and part of that's just getting the name out there and getting it talked about.
I'm actually looking it up right now. It says the marketing cost 150 million.
God damn!
Lord.
What? There you go. Over half of this movie's budget was That means this movie only cost like $75 million. That's it. That doesn't sound right. Although they guess if they reused animation, it would be cheaper. But God,
you want to get into that real quick?
Okay, hold on. So Skids and Mudflap, yeah.
That doesn't sound very reassuring.
So there's a lot of people. Well, that's the thing. A lot of people discuss. Like some people are like, I didn't find it offensive, or I didn't quite get it, and it's like, you can say yes or no, but clearly, it's hard to see them as anything but that.
in all reality, like
they weren't doing it on purpose. Well, he's not openly a supporter. He's just kind of an idiot.
Like a country ass white dude from the South would probably talk like that too. You know, fast like that, and
You're thinking of like Boomhauer.
Not like Boomhauer, but
no, not Mississippi
no,
Mudspeak.
more like Paul Wall.
You can't say that, Will.
Or something. You know what I mean? Like someone in that circle would probably talk like that.
He's got a heavy drawl. He drags out his syllables, and that's just kind of how he talks.
Or they would talk really fast like that, or something, and it could have like a little bit of twang, especially if you're growing up with like a good mix of people. It's more than anything, it's just like cheesy. It seems like it's almost like it was written for like a soccer mom to be like, haha, that's funny,
Yeah.
It's very bottom of the barrel humor. It's it's like
it definitely
blasting, you know, like in the 90s, early 2000s, like blasting Who Let the Dogs Out in a scene where a bunch of dogs pour out. Like that's the easy thing to do.
A lot of kids movies
yeah,
do that.
exactly. How many kids movies did that, like back to back to back, like, you know?
Wasn't well thinking back on that now that we're on a little bit of a tangent there. Didn't that movie get popular or song get popularized by
it was Rugrats,
the Rugrats movie way back when?
Yeah, because the video had a bunch to do with Spike and everything, and it was him out in the woods.
There we go. Yep.
I don't remember if he was with them or just kind of looking for them. If he was part of the with the parents.
I don't remember. It's been years since I watched
it was that, and then it was Snow Buddies, or Snow Pups, whatever. The one with Cuba Gooding Jr. And 102 Dalmatians, and every single thing they would find a reason to play them or play that song.
God, that takes me back.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie had a lot of budget. Now, I do want to circle back. Obviously, you had the budget for the actors getting paid whatever they did. But my main gripe for the budget is if you're going to put it into animation, why does it look like a sore thumb throughout the entire movie? Like, it bothered me so much, and it bothered me when I initially watched that in theaters. They just don't look like they belong in, like, any of their sets. Like, whenever you see the fights out in the middle of the forest, or, like, it was almost to the point where it looked okay in the desert, but the forest was the biggest, offender there, where, like, you could see everything just stand out, and it's just like they aren't even blending in with the trees very well.
I mean, it's hard to do metal. It's easy to do metal in a city, but then metal's gonna stand out in a natural.
The hardest thing to do is to make something. What I heard years ago, and I agree with, the hardest thing to do with computer animation of any kind is to make something animated by a computer look real next to an actual real object, especially if they are moving. You can do tricks to make it easier to flub and easier to fool the audience, but it is the hardest thing in the world to do because our eyes are able to see both things and compare them, and that compare and contrast that your brain does in milliseconds is what kills the illusion. That's also why sometimes they will CG overlay something that is real that touches something that isn't, so that you don't do that with your brain, so that the two things are comparable. At least they're being done by the same team. They can match them. They can mess with the lighting so that it doesn't look which is also a hard thing to do. Match what was real lighting with fake lighting, because you have to really go in and try very, very hard.
Sun, basically, and you got to fake the sun.
Yeah, you have to fake it. Then you also have to take into account, okay, so when they shot this, it was this time of day. This is the direction it was coming from. This is what it's going to look like after they get done with the final edit. So I have to take all of that information, put it into here, fake it, set that up, then use that to light the thing that I did, then let it render, then hope that it's good enough that I don't have to render twice, because rendering takes forever. So it's like there's so much work that goes into it. It can be very hard. And they reuse some animation too from the first film. Like the part where he picks up Starscream, flips him over, and then kicks him in the head in slow motion is literally the exact same thing he did in the last movie. It's even framed the same by the camera. It's just now there's trees instead of city.
That's one way of saving money.
Yeah, they didn't have to reanimate that at all. They just changed the lighting because both Optimus and Starscream pretty much look identical to how they did. They have to go in probably and do a little dirtying up because Optimus has been smashing through trees and punching people. But that's just a little bit of him, and then you just hit play and it'll run again. So you retexture him slightly, and then you're done.
Speaking of saving money, here is a word from our sponsors. And we're back. Hey guys, wasn't that a great ad?
I know, I feel like my life is affirmed. How about you guys?
I'm a little better off.
I mean, I think somebody ended up having a really good time making that, so I don't know, we'll see. So about this particular thing involving all the different, I guess you want to say, let's get into the things that didn't really work for me. They call it the Decepticon Pretender.
The girl?
But it's the Deceptubine. Yes. Yeah. I feel like that was literally, that served no purpose. It served absolutely no purpose other than to be like, hey, guess what we can do?
Yeah, do they do that in the cartoons? Turn into people? Ever?
No.
You mean make sexy robots? Because they definitely do, but...
You fucker.
And that's before the internet gets to them. And then afterwards, ugh.
I think what he means is in making
well,
a robot look like
I didn't think they could do flesh.
Okay, so there's a reason it's called a pretender. That's a thing. That is a old reference to Transformers.
It's called a skinwalker.
No, that's the supernatural term for it, sir. It's not even accurate. No, the Pretenders were a line of toys, and then, of course, of comics and other tie-in media, where they basically were like, oh, I haven't read it and I don't remember enough at the moment, but calling it a pretender and making it look like a human makes sense. Like, it is a nod, but I don't think anybody was mounting another human at any point during the stories.
Yeah.
So that's the Michael Bay edition.
This little added flair.
You can definitely say it's his added flair. It's definitely right up his alley. Good lord.
Right up her alley. Hey yo.
Oh, right up Sam's.
Well, I will boot you from this.
You're gonna kick me from this server? Is that what's gonna happen?
I do hate the tongue thing that comes out of her mouth.
And it comes out fleshy.
Oh, the tip of it is still squishy and human.
The tip of it looks like, I don't know why they designed it like that. It looks like Jabba's tongue. It's like blue and like flesh and enlarged. It makes no sense. Like, they didn't even keep it the same, like a human tongue on the end. It's just...
Yeah, it's just so bizarre.
They made choices.
One thing I did like is that they decided to bring back more more bots from the last movie, but because they technically died, they decided to just repurpose them and give them a new name.
Oh, yeah.
So you have a brand new helicopter.
Yeah, that's not Blackout from the first movie. That's a totally different person.
Grindor.
It's Grindor. That's just different guy.
It leads up to a really cool scene that I actually enjoyed, where it's exposition heavy a little bit, but it's along the lines of where they finally managed to revive Megatron. They bring Sam and all the others into this abandoned warehouse, and they're gonna like strip him of his brain and his flesh just to get the recordings.
So here's the thing: they point out that humans are small, fleshy, and weak. And I know this is a minor point, but it really bugged me. They point out repeatedly that humans are like really small, really fleshy, really like squishy and easy to kill. And the Decepticons put like 0% effort into not straight up murdering Sam on the way to bring him to Megatron, knowing that they need him alive because when we die, we're basically useless flesh bags. And yet they put almost no effort into it. I'm like, guys, this is like the revival of your entire species. This one human. You couldn't have tried like a little bit. You couldn't have put forth more than half a percentage point of effort. You know we're weak, small, and like we die. Do you care? Because like if...
Yeah, but the mad scientist bot, why not use that?
Well, but they didn't know that. They literally had no idea how to get the information out of Sam until he was being examined. If he had died and gotten smeared across the ground on the way to being there, and they just showed up with a red stain, and the scientist is like, sorry, boss, I can't do anything with that. You're going to have to find something else.
Find another relative, yeah. Another ancestor. It is, yeah.
Well, everyone...
It's the way they throw him around. You're right. It makes no sense.
He almost dies.
Even in the first one, the Decepticon that's asking him, "Are you eBay user, ladies man, whatever?"
Yeah,
he
ladies
flings him onto he like
scene.
slaps him onto the car. So if you got hit with like straight up steel like that enough to be thrown across a junkyard, like you're not conscious and dead.
Yeah, you could chalk that up to movie physics, but it's mostly like even beyond that, because the rest of the scene, he is really trying to kill Sam, and it's like, it wouldn't murdering him result in you not finding out the information? He hasn't said anything to you yet, so if you kill him, he can't tell you anything. Maybe don't throw entire vehicles at him. Like, I can forgive cartoon physics, it's an action movie, but I'm gonna have a real tough time not thinking that a car would crush him to death.
Oh yeah, just
so like, why? Look, I get it. You're trying to be intimidating, but you can't intimidate a corpse.
Yeah, it's it is one of those. It's rushed. I guess you're supposed to be thinking about too many other things, which is fine if the story isn't crap. It's like,
well, I
it's
mean,
so weird.
when you say hold on, let's examine that real quick. When you say thinking about other things, what other thoughts would we be digging into?
Well, like, you know, like if the action isn't that believable, but it's cool enough, you can be like, oh, well, I can fall back on
That's
this
fair.
story. But there's nothing. There's the whole, like I said, they do the whole Jedi thing where Sam is like a special half.
He's a special
snowflake.
Half Autobot kind of person, just like Lost World, Fallen Kingdom, where it's like a half raptor girl or whatever.
Oh God!
Wait, what? I need to watch that movie. What the hell?
You're missing out.
Yeah, no, you don't.
What?
No, you don't.
I only watched the first one. Nobody was part dinosaur in that. Well, unless you got the people who got eaten.
No, but
Yeah, we're not getting into that. That movie's
or like the photos, seeing like photos of old cars, the little wheelie one, and being like, "Oh, these guys are old." Like, yeah,
where did you find them?
These guys are ancient. It's like, okay, I could have just showed you like a picture of just a random ass car.
Okay, so it's funny that you mentioned that. So he's like all up on these pictures, right? And then they go to meet or find this particular bot, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's a Decepticon." How did you not think that when Wheelie was the one who actually said, "Oh my God, these guys are ancient"?
When he straight up says the Decepticon in front of you goes, "Oh yeah, those are the Seekers. They're like really strong and really old," and none of them were like, "We're talking to a Decepticon." He seems really familiar with these guys.
Right?
Wonder if there's a reason.
Oh
shit, there is a reason.
But I'm also with what David said. The action is like when it's on point, it's like it's good. It's there. Sometimes it doesn't look great, but it's still there.
Yeah.
But it's all the stuff in between that sucks. It's just. I had this problem when I watched the movie in theaters, even though I saw it 3 times in theaters.
Wow.
I'm a Transformer whore, all right? Well, let's not say that. But anyways, yes.
Man.
I will watch pretty much anything with Transformers in it, even if it's bad. And this movie takes a lot between action scenes. Like, granted, some people will say, yeah, this is a popcorn movie.
Yep.
Yeah, this is also a movie where you can go and take a dump in between scenes and you'll come back and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the end, it feels like it's ending 500 times. There's really no big thing that, happens until Optimus, wakes up and Optimus is also really mean in this movie.
Oh, this is
He's mean
so
at
this
all
is
of
the
them.
beginning. So this is the beginning of. I'm sure there are people who love the character of Optimus Prime who despise the Bayverse version because he's basically the most violent, callous, angry. He is like the Punisher version of Optimus Prime. In all other,
He's also very deceptive.
yeah, he's also. It's almost like you would call him some sort of Deceptibot, yeah.
We'll think of it.
Some other word, something catchy for the kids. It's the thing is, again, he said he was a big fan of Generation 1, and it's like, okay, that like in Generation 1 and pretty much every iteration, the point behind Optimus's character is that he's usually the last Prime, and the point of being a Prime is that you are the leader to all Transformers. Decepticons and Autobots are factions, and that's a problem. But the whole thing that makes Optimus precarious, and there's usually entire storylines about this, even the Netflix trilogy, the trilogy of series they did, the Earthrise, even they had this. Optimus is constantly having to balance the fact that he is technically the leader of one of the factions in a war, but oh yeah, you are also the de facto leader of your species. You are supposed to finish the war without genociding the other side to win. That's what makes it so hard for him.
He does it without mercy, isn't he? Oh my God.
He doesn't give any mercy. He says one thing in the opening of this movie and then headshots the guy. And it's like, wow. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, when he's like, I'm taking your face. Like, rips his
Oh,
face off. Like,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah, he's
Jesus.
giving out action movie one-liners from like Years of War.
God, that reminds me. In one of the later movies, I don't think it might be the part
Huh?
5, where he goes up. No, it's part 4. At the very end, he goes like, "I'm gonna find my maker and I'm gonna kill them." Like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah. I know what you're
Uh,
talking
from what I heard, they completely flubbed the introduction of the Maker people anyway, so it's fine. He can do that.
yeah.
The franchise
It,
dies in 5 anyway.
well, at least it gets rebooted. That's all I can
Completely
say.
rewritten, but yeah.
Um, yeah. So let's talk about the action. So yeah, this is a really brutal movie. Not as brutal as number 3 will be, which I can't wait for.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of scenes in this where like Optimus wrecks shit. Like he like that again with Grindor, he literally split
He
his face
rips
in
his
half.
head like apart. He puts 2 hooks on each side of his head
Yeah.
and then tears it apart, and he just dies.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where it's like, oh, this is where you can see where this could legit be a rated R movie if it was nothing but humans
Yep.
doing this. No, this gets to that point, and then 3 just further amplifies that.
They get around it because robots are not people, so you're fine. It's the old idea of lasers instead of bullets.
Mm-hmm. Now, oh, when this movie came out and you guys watched it initially, were you shocked that Prime died near the beginning of the movie, or no?
No, I wasn't like, oh my god, Optimus, because it's such a movie trope that, some guy fake dies or dies and is going to come back, like, right before the end of the movie. Especially, now, if that had been, like, Transformers 4 and they were billing it as, like, this is the last time, like, roll out one
This is
last
the end.
time, and all that bullshit, then it would have been like, oh shit, like, they're killing Optimus, this is emotional. But no, it's obvious that they're bringing him back,
So it's something that they managed to do in almost every single movie, if I remember right, where one of the bigger characters is gonna end up looking like they're dying, or or they do die but then come back. They do that in just about every single Transformers movie, and it's just bonkers to me because it's like I remember back in the '84 movie when Prime dies,
He stays dead that whole
and
movie.
it's like that was. Yeah, he's just gone. He doesn't come back until like what, Gen 2?
So here's the thing. I can give you guys a real quick and dirty history of Optimus Prime, his deaths, and all that stuff if you want.
Yeah, make
Make it
snappy.
snappy. Okay. Did you get that?
You fucker.
You're welcome. No, so in the original movie, and remember, Transformers the movie, the original film, was just another part of the Transformers property. Hasbro had their own plans. They purposely murked a ton of people in that movie. By people, I mean Transformers. They just absolutely wiped the slate clean, including Optimus, because they wanted to introduce a whole new slate of characters, which is why Hot Rod becomes the new Prime. And he even starts acting differently because of it, because the matrix of leadership alters his personality. Anyone who wields it, that's what happens to them. And so he becomes Rodimus Prime, physically changes, becomes stronger, and then starts acting differently and becomes their leader, and Optimus is dead, gone. They didn't realize how fucking popular they had made the show before. Remember when this was happening in the 80s? There was no instant feedback loop. So they didn't realize how much people liked all of the characters from season 1, especially Optimus. So they wind up writing Rodimus out of being a Prime, and they bring back Optimus Prime. I think it's like a fucking zombie or something, and then somebody resurrects his corpse, and then they take the Matrix of Leadership and essentially stick it into the corpse after, like, I assume the Decepticons raised it or something, and they use that to essentially turn the body back into Optimus, and then he comes back to life and he becomes leader again. That's the origin of the straight up Transformers trope of Optimus is dead, but not really. And then that happens multiple times.
Wow.
My first introduction to that was Transformers Armada, is the first Transformers show I ever watched a lot of. And when he died in that, I genuinely felt the hero sacrifice type thing. I mean, he'd been around for episodes and episodes at that point. I cared about the character. And then he dies, and they also play the scene up and make it emotional, which they didn't do in the movie. And, well, they did for 5 minutes. And then Yeah,
Not even.
but so they flub that. They also do it too fast, and then, as you said, it's a trope. But I didn't really figure he was going to stay dead because I had already seen him die and come back, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's probably going to happen. And then they talked about the Matrix and all that other crap. But it is a trope in Transformers to do that. I think they pulled the trigger too fast on it, and they should have waited until the audience cared more about this version of Prime, like third or fourth movie. It would have worked better. But again, that's not them going through a checklist of what next, what next. Okay, so we should have Optimus die, then we should bring him back, and it also dips into the spiritual elements. Transformers has always been heavy on spirituality, identity, which makes sense when it's an entire species where their physical form is almost meaningless to them. It imparts influence on like their character and who they are, but they are separate from those bodies heavily. They can change them. They can make them sometimes mass shift, big and small. Like they are basically their identity and their body. The body influences their identity as when they change into it sometimes, but more than that, their core, where their spark is, all that other stuff. There's a whole bunch of spirituality that goes into it, and they really write it heavy. That's why one of his original taglines was "Till all are one," because he has been tasked by the Matrix to unite all Transformers. None of this comes across at all in the Bayverse because none of that matters. None of that is a thing. They openly say that Cybertron is dead. They openly say that this is all just machines. On our world, the Allspark gave life. And I think they said that the Matrix of leadership, they kind of hint at the whole spirituality thing with like, oh, the primes watch you and blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And then, but they don't, again, they don't really lean into any of this because this is Sam Witwicky's story featuring the Transformers, not a Transformers story that happens to have humans in it. So
Yeah, you were right on the money on that. Unfortunately, I can't really add on to that. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the next thing.
I mean, well, before you do, David, how do you feel about that idea? I don't know if you're familiar with that stuff.
That's why I like the spirituality thing with robots. I mean, that's why I like Evangelion a lot. I like how they somehow mix the two. But yeah, when it here,
one of us,
it comes in, it's just so out of nowhere and cheesy. It's such a like Simba in the savannah, and Rafiki shows him like a reflection kind of thing, and it's just like the primes are with you. Like it's just, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. It just kind of like I said, comes out of nowhere. So you really don't get all of that. So that's why things like, oh, the dagger disintegrated, but then go use the dagger on him, and all of a sudden the dust reassembles.
Yeah, that's also a thing. That is not a trope. That's a trait of the Matrix of Leadership that Sean and I saw in Transformers 1, and that they have kind of alluded to. The Transformers have always, not always, Gen 1, G1 did not have that. That came in later in the comics when they were reimagining some of it. They really leaned into this idea of spirituality and this like back and forth of another realm. The Matrix of Leadership literally choosing who it presents itself to and when. The Matrix being a tie to their original creator, who also happens to be in some versions of the comic a literal being of like light energy, and Unicron is the other side of that coin. No, in that iteration, Decepticons did not come from Unicron. Unicron is separate. Decepticons are, again, just a faction of Transformers. They have a moral disagreement with the Autobots, and that's literally it. They're all Transformers. They all come from Primus. They all come from the same planet. They just disagree with ideologically with each other and are totally willing to kill each other over it. Which is very human. But, you know, that's where all that comes from. And so it's always, since then, been a heavy part of their world and their story and their tales, and they lean into it in different ways. And most of the really popular versions of the shows, they weren't really interested in it in these movies. And I know why, because that doesn't have as many explosions. But
Doesn't sell toys.
not really.
Or maybe the Transformers aren't trying to fuck each other.
Hey, they never were sexually attracted to anything in these movies. The humans were the ones who were too horny, but
I mean, yeah, but anyways.
Yeah, the Transformers don't. Oh well, that one Transformer humps Fox Wheelie.
oh yeah,
The
you're right.
Decepticon.
Yeah,
Oh, you
Wheelie
mean
does
Wheelie.
totally
Yeah,
chihuahuas her leg at one
which
point.
makes no sense. Also,
Nope, not at all. It was
It's just there
it's
for
a
the joke.
silly dumb
Unfortunately, it's a
dog
shitty
joke.
Yeah.
They made.
Which, by the way, they only did that because his dog kept wanting to fuck the other dog in the.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
his dog die, and those are 2 new dogs, or they got 1 new dog?
No.
No, Mojo is still the same.
Okay, so
The
they got
Chihuahua's the
1
same.
new
They
dog.
got a new one though. The big one is brand new.
I was also wondering, and there's that scene where the dogs are humping each other, and I was like, how do they train the dogs to do that? That's so crazy. Like, those are actor dogs.
Well, the worst part is how they linger
Yeah,
on it
those
for so
those are
long.
actor dogs. Like, they have union card. I have to...
Wait, is there an intimacy coach for actor dogs? Because there's an intimacy coach for
don't know.
humans.
Yeah, that's what
This raises
makes
so
it
many
weird.
questions.
Is it a spray bottle?
Like, at that point, is it just like any other action?
I want to talk about John Turturro and then Devastator. John Turturro, he's in it basically for getting from plot C to plot D. You're introduced to him where he lost his entire career at Sector 7 because they were disbanded.
Which
And instead of working for another part of the government, he's now working
Well-
in a deli with his
so it's a
mom.
little weird that that there's a part of me torn. It's like, would the government take a bunch of insanely like people with information you definitely don't want talking, people who've seen you authorize things you do not want them to speak about, not just with these aliens, but they've been doing stuff for decades. Do you really want all those people just wandering around mad at you because you took everything away from them? But that also, on the other hand, is something we would totally do. Like, the American government would definitely save a buck and be like, since we're working with the Autobots, fire those Sector 7 guys.
Yeah, we don't even need you guys. But yeah, no, I agree. That was my whole thing with Sam earlier. Is like, it makes no sense that he's just like normal life. They would have been like, you're our new human ambassador to transform.
Yep, because you're the only one Optimus talks to and doesn't try to shoot.
Exactly. Like, you're Bumblebee's literally like, they came to you and stuff like that. The government would be like, you have a job now. Don't even worry about like finding work.
You're not going to
This
college.
this is your thing.
You're employed.
You are like, yeah, you're a Transformer soldier. And they do that thing with John Turturro with again, they're just not great at anything outside of one specific group, where he's just working at a generic ethnic deli, just the most generic. You can't tell what part of the country they're all from. There's a guy with like, they're like, oh, you won't get that new
Fucked
teeth
up
you
teeth.
want, or that new tooth, and he's like, and he, just makes a noise. It's like,
It was very off-putting,
it's
is what it was.
It's just another one of those just stupid, like, all right, we're gonna show people that
It's very low effort.
yeah, that don't look like anyone else in the movie,
Mm.
so they're obviously like the oblongs or something, just
Actually,
they
that's a good.
Oblongs,
That's a good way of putting that.
That's a reference.
yeah,
Actually.
like, they're not gonna be normal.
No,
They're gonna be
and they're not
loud.
going to be
Yeah,
like, we're not going to make them stupid or anything. We're just going to make them look really weird when you
Yep.
juxtapose them with the main cast.
yeah, main cast, beautiful, tan,
Mhm.
orange, constantly sweating in the California
Orange.
heat.
Yeah, they were very damp in this movie.
They're
Yeah,
part Trump.
Here's the others.
There's also that moment that when they want to go into the Smithsonian, that he ends up, for some reason, pantsless, showing his Sector 7 underwear.
Jockstrap.
Yeah, no reason.
We get a
Literally
full
no
butt
reason
shot
for
of
that.
him,
It's
though.
just like,
So
come on.
John Turturro's butt is preserved
you
for
do.
posterity.
And then right after
Wow.
that, or not long after that, you've got yeah,
Leo,
they got
where
him
he's,
with his pants down,
going
being
pantsless
like,
as well to do a
where's the
crap joke.
bathroom?" It's just,
Yeah.
It's literally
it wasn't handled right.
12-year-old humor.
Yeah. Speaking of 12-year-old
Huh?
humor, Devastator.
You don't like Devastator?
No, he doesn't like the truck
Alright,
nuts joke
Devis-
that just writes itself.
Oh yes,
I am beneath the scrotal region.
Yeah.
Beneath the enemy scrotum.
there's
Devastator as a whole looks cool. I did look up to see what the toy looked like. The toy looks like shit, and they people are charging a range between $300 to $1,200
Because it's a
for it.
Transformer and they do not make those anymore. That is a like 20-year-old toy at this
Yeah.
point. And Transformers, okay, if we're going to talk like investments, Transformers are kind of the way to go. They have their own convention and they make that convention exclusive Transformers. And when I say exclusive, it's not just recolors. They'll make like sometimes a recolor that is a reference to a like really obscure fucking character from the lore. Like these are truly for the people who are really heavily invested in the lore, the world, the characters, and BotCon is insane. People go hard for Transformers, so if you ever want to like invest in something, it's entirely valid to buy a couple of runs of something or like to pick and choose and then just like stick those in the back and wait like 5-10 years. There's a chance you're sitting on.
I mean, that's essentially what I've done with some of the ones
Yeah,
that I already own.
you could be sitting on money for some of those things. They are, it is crazy how high up they go in value. It just depends on, there's 1,001 versions, so you got to get the right one. But
A couple years ago, I ended up finding a Studio Series Blackout from
oh,
the
nice.
first
Studio
one.
Series is good quality.
I got it for
Hmm.
$50, and since then it's gone up in value to like
Oh yeah,
250.
Studio Series are high quality. I was going to say for Hasbro, but to be honest, they're high quality. Hasbro's wavers a little
Yeah,
bit, but their Studio Series are good.
I bought it specifically to to have it go up in value because I'm like, you can't get this
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. Amazon's already selling it for like
Mm.
$150, and so then just by looking at it, I'm like, I gotta get it. Haven't opened it, haven't done anything with it. I'm like, you know what, this is a perfect
Yeah.
thing right here.
Yeah, no, that's how it works.
Yeah, but regardless, Devastator. Devastator is actually a really unique transformation in this movie because it's a kind of a violent transformation if you think about it. Because it's got 8 different bots that all come together to form this giant mountain, so to speak, of a transformer. And it's got a really ugly face with a giant turbine with giant suction.
Angry vacuum cleaner.
But the way angry vacuum cleaner, I think that's what they actually called it at
jeez.
one point. But the way that they did the transformation, you can see when they're all like clamping down into the ground before they end up getting slammed into the arm or leg sockets, and it's just so visceral to the point where you could actually see them like breaking into pieces a little bit before they actually join together. I was like, oh man, if anything, that's where the budget went, was that.
Oh, yeah,
fucking
100%.
thing.
So they're essentially not joining Devastator by choice. Are they all programmed to just snap at that moment into, or are they all
going
decided?
by the movie, yeah, I'd say that they were, because the Constructicons are just a big team, and going by how the movie looks, there was no outside input. I think they're just told to go be Devastator, and then they just do it. So it's a thing they do, even though one of them died.
Well, to be fair, that's kind of what they do in the show as well. Like, as far as I remember, when they were like just the regular single bots in the show, they didn't really have much of a thought or anything like that. They were just like, go become Devastator, and then they did, and then they.
So it depends on the version. Bruticus and Devastator have similar transformations, where it's a combination, and Bruticus and Devastator are treated slightly differently, if I remember right, and different writers, different iterations. You're getting into that territory. Bruticus, basically, they fuse together, but Bruticus is so fucking dumb that you essentially just point him in a direction and then he breaks everything in that direction until he's like gets tired and runs out of being angry or stuff to break, and then he'll break back apart into all of them. But he's basically, you cannot like tell him what to do. Bruticus is stupid, depending on which version you go with.
Right.
Devastator is more intelligent but less powerful. Because the Constructicons combine, and I think Devastator is a separate personality that comes together when they're all fused. And they do combiners. Combiners are a fascinating thing with Transformers. Some combiners, when they combine, legitimately all like join together, and it like merges all of their consciousnesses, and then they break apart, and they all kind of like were in each other's heads at the same time. And then for certain transformations, one person will essentially dominate everyone else, and they all attach together. But then when they're in their giant mode, that one personality is in charge, and they do everything, and everybody else just becomes this passive background. They don't They just exist to facilitate the transformation. They are not actually active participants beyond being raw materials.
Speaking of Bruticus, David, you got to check out the at least some of the stuff from Fall of Cybertron.
Yeah.
You actually get to play as Bruticus, and he is a giant walking powerhouse. You get to play as all the different bots before they actually combine, and they're kind of devious. They're like they have a lot of firepower, and they actually like talk a lot of shit for whatever they are. And then when they finally join together, you are just this walking monstrosity that has a giant flamethrower. You've got this fucking what was it? Was it a sword that as soon as you start twirling it, it becomes like a helicopter?
No, it's a helicopter blade.
It's a helicopter,
because one of them
blade.
is a helicopter,
Right.
and it's his right or left shoulder. So to block, he just turns his shoulder and spins the blades really fast. So projectiles hit the blades instead of him. That's his defending.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
Actually, I think I have that toy.
Oh, you need to send in pictures of that.
I don't
see that.
know where it is at the moment, but if I find it, I will let you know, because that was one of my favorite things from that. It's so freaking cool. Also, that version of Barricade, the Transformers Fall Cybertron games, the High Moon Studios, that's my favorite version of Barricade. Totally different from this Barricade, by the way. Not the same person. Hasbro has a habit of... also, just a heads up for anything regarding Transformers. When you look up a Transformer by name, there's probably going to be several with that name, regardless of like main cast. Like if you say Barricade, there's the movie version of Barricade, there's the game version, there was another old one that was just like usually a recolor with something else. And so Hasbro has a habit of to hold on to the name, the copyright. They will release a new toy just to hold the name. So you'll get these random toys where like the toy was named that, and then there's no stories. Yeah, and there's no stories about it, because all they did was they wanted to hold on to that name. So they made a toy, didn't put it in anything, and then that's it. It's just this one random instance. So, and it's just so they can hold on to the name to use it later. And then later on, they'll use it on like something else. They'll actually put it on a character, and then people get attached to it.
That explains Grimlock.
Well, no, Grimlock has always been a thing. Beast Wars?
Yeah, they made an actual Grimlock toy.
Because they were in between shows, because they wanted to hold on to Grimlock because it's Grimlock, but they created Dinobot instead. And yeah, Beast Wars is a rare case where a lot of the characters of the original show were just thrown to the side, and they made a fully original cast.
Yeah. Dinobot, you betray me.
Again.
Speaking of which, I know that Will's already finished, but have you gotten any further in Beast Wars, David? I'm not either. I've been watching a whole lot of other stuff that I need to get back into Beast Wars. It's just the problem for me is having to get the energy to stand up, change discs. And
oh my god, that sounds horrendous. Oh, you could just go to YouTube and watch the whole thing for free.
Yeah, but then ads.
Tubi has all of Beast Wars.
Yeah, but also ads.
Sean is lazy. Doesn't want to get up, doesn't want to watch ads. Sounds like you don't want to watch it.
Optimus would not be proud.
I do. I definitely do. I'm still only 6 episodes in.
Wow.
Yeah. But I'll get there. I'll get there. Probably once we're done doing our third Transformers movie. But that being said, this movie as a whole, not great. I did have fun with it, in a lot of parts, but again, this movie's just really fucking dumb. Of course, it's always going to be on my rewatch list, because as soon as I get done watching the Transformers movies, I'm like, I'll come back to it again in a couple years and watch it, be as disappointed as
I'm
I
really
was
surprised
the first time,
that I don't
and
do
still
that.
watch it again. I mean, I do it with Pacific Rim, but that's because Pacific Rim
is also, in my opinion, much better. Both of them have a lot more going on than these movies do.
That's true. That is true. I will say that this movie does not beat out Pacific Rim Uprising. Uprising is still a
that is a goofy movie.
But other than that, any final thoughts for you guys?
I give this 6 Allspark shards out of 10.
Allspark
Allspark shards out of 10.
Wow. What about you, Will?
How many Allspark shards out of 10?
How many Deceptibines must
I think I'll give it a solid Allspark shard out of 100. You're gonna really want to change those pants after you watch this one.
You mean like John Turturro did?
I mean, he wanted to feel powerful. He's like, I need it. It's my thing. You want to know the best part about, like, it's a movie and we all accept that it's goofy. The best part about the I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember his character's name. Not Sam, the other dude. There you go,
Leo.
The best part about Leo walking out with his pants around his ankles, there's literally no reason for that. He could have just, all he needed to do was get one of them to come over. He could have just walked out and been like, "Okay, dude, I don't know what," and just be like really vague and be like, "I don't know what happened, but like I think there's somebody in here who needs help," and just lie, and that's it.
Oh yeah.
But they really needed him to walk out. And I do like that we had the line, "Dude, there's families here. Pull your pants." The movie says it. They're like, "Dude, there's families here. What are you doing?"
Yeah, it's self-aware in that.
Yeah.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make it good.
Not at all.
Oh man. Well, on that note, I think we pretty much know exactly where I'm going with this movie, so I don't really have to say my final thoughts on it. It's just it's not good. It's not great. It's not awful, but it's
You want to
close
kill an
to it.
afternoon? You're like, I want to watch something with lots of explosions, kind of related to the Transformers.
Like, you can do exactly what I did, where I was learning how to play with my new quote unquote Armada Jetfire, because it's not really Armada Jetfire, but it's made in spirit, and yeah, I just played with that the entire time.
I would say these are good background movies.
Yeah, it's white noise.
Yeah. That Armada Jetfire did not come with any instructions.
Oh, the test.
So I had to pull up a YouTube video while watching the movie, trying to figure out how to transform this damn thing.
You didn't just sprinkle some dagger dust into your eye and have it reveal to you all the plans for the model.
That's just called dandruff, sir. You just pick up whatever's left over on the couch and you sprinkle that into your eye. It does something. It definitely blinds you, that's for sure. Well, gentlemen, I had a good time this evening. Tune in next time, because I'm not going to say next week, because I'm trying to figure out the best way to space this out. But tune in next time for part 3, where we review Transformers Dark of the Moon, the darkest movie of the entire franchise.
With a really big voice actor in it.
Frank Welker?
No, the bad guy.
John Malkovich.
He knows what you're talking about.
I assume he's trolling me, but it's Sean. He could legitimately have forgotten.
I did for a second.
He's just.
I was like, "Oh wait, Leonard Bean Boy." I was like, "Never mind."
It's at the tip of my tongue. Kind of well-known actor. And you're like, oh yeah, that guy.
I was trying to do that without Googling. All right, well, gentlemen, thank you for joining me, Wilhelm, and thank you for joining me, David. This has been another episode of Big Mecha, but not huge. Have a good night, everyone.
Hey, everybody.